get through Zechariah and Malachi. Malachi being the last book of the Old Testament, well, in your 66 book canon, that is. But yeah, I'm going to download the teachings from this morning, which is Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and hopefully we'll be able to finish Micah, which is only 4 chapters. It's pretty short. And then I know Jason was wanting to join earlier to cover the corn. I'll explain the corn, but I'm not going to go into great detail on it. Remember, when it's talking about corn and wine and all of this stuff, it always has to do with the Torah. It's always referring to doctrine. But I'll explain the corn when we get to the end of Zechariah chapter 9 for the people that are wondering, because that's kind of where we left off. I wanted to have Jason come on. But I also wanted to try to finish this out so that I could upload all 3 of the books, or all 4 of the books, I should say, that we covered this morning. So once I get done wrapping this up, I already have 1 downloaded. Hopefully TikTok will not be TikTok and allow me to get all 3 downloaded. I think it was 3. I think we did. Yeah, I came on this morning and then I took a break, and then this will be the 3rd time, minus the 1 that we tried to get through earlier. So we'll start in Zechariah 9. And again, if you guys missed the other teachings, I'll upload them in a little while, and then everybody can go watch them. Anybody who's interested in watching them can go and watch them and go through it if there's stuff in there that you haven't heard before. The main purpose of me doing these smaller books is because I want you to hear the catchphrases and some of these key words. And just so everybody's aware, for my mods that are in here, if you see people from Straight as the Gate or straightasthegate.net, block them. I do not want people in here partaking of the knowledge and the fruit that the Father has imparted to us. I just watched a video from one of them going after Miss Deborah, which is a spirit of cowardice. They don't come for the men. They always go after the women. If you see them, block them. I do not want them in my lives, nor are they going to partake from the knowledge that we're learning and that we're sharing. If they want to teach their own doctrine and lead people astray, the people's blood that choose to follow them will be on their hands, not mine. With that being said, Zechariah chapter 9. It says, "The burden of the word of Yahweh in the land of Hadrach and Damascus shall be the rest thereof, when the eyes of man, as of all the tribes of Israel, shall be toward Yahweh. And Hamath also shall they border." Now, remember, again, I said this earlier, think about all of these flags that are coming into our different countries, European countries. Hamath is something we've been hearing about a lot, correct? "And Hamath also shall border thereby Tyrus and Zidon, though it be very wise. And Tyrus did build herself a stronghold, and heap up silver as dust and fine gold as the mire of the streets." Remember, the people that are coming, they're not going to have any interest in gold or silver. Why? Because they've been heaping it up for a long time. Remember, when we went over to Iraq, a lot of that was a gold grab, not to mention, let me not even go into that. They were there for other reasons. Let me put it that way. They were there for reasons of the fallen, and it was a whole big war over something that the public didn't know about. Verse 4, "Behold, Yahweh will cast her out, and he will smite her power in the sea." So again, this is Lord, Lord, lowercase. So this is talking about the Messiah. Yahweh, agency. The Messiah works, or the Yahweh works through agents. Moses, anybody he speaks through, any one of these prophets are his agents, right? So a lot of people get stuck on agency, which is explained very clearly in Revelation chapter 1. The revelation of Yeshua the Messiah that was given to him by the Father Yahweh. And then the Messiah takes that message, which is all of the prophets combined, and he gives it to his servant John by means of an angel, which is how all prophecy is delivered according to Scripture. All prophecy was given by means of angels, and then by that angel that the Messiah commands, the 7 archangels, by that angel that he sent to John, John's book, the book of Revelation, which is a summary of all the prophets combined, excuse me, are now in the book of Revelation telling you the entire story of all the prophets combined. Verse 4, behold, I'm going to say the master will cast her out, and he will smite her with the power in the sea, in the nations. Remember, the sea represents nations. And he shall be devoured with fire. Ashkelon shall see it and fear. Gaza also shall see it and be very sorrowful. And Ekron, for her expectation, shall be ashamed. And the king shall perish from Gaza. And Ashkelon shall not be inhabited. A bastard shall not dwell in Ashdod. And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. Question, who did David fight? Goliath. Who was Goliath? A Philistine. What does Philistine mean? Palestine. Don't think for 1 second, like I've said before, all of the nations that are walking the earth today, do not think for 1 second that these nations aren't still walking the earth today, this very day. So why are we seeing Palestinian flags? Well, the book of Zechariah, all of the book of Jeremiah, Isaiah, Revelation, every book that we read, these have been wars that have been going on. Why did the Messiah say in Matthew 24, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom? Ethnos against ethnos, race against race, kingdom against kingdom. That's how the end comes. So why is it talking about Palestine, and why are we seeing their flags? Because the prophets don't lie, and the book of the Most High is alive and active, as the book says. Verse 7, and I will take away his blood out of his mouth. Listen very closely. This is talking about the Philistines. I will take away the blood from out of his mouth and his abominations from between his teeth. Now, who are the Philistines, or who does Palestine worship? Allah, right? We have Abraham. He gives birth to Ishmael. Ishmael goes and mixes seed with the Egyptians. And then we thus have the Muslim race, right? And from the Muslim race, the Christians, or the people that believe in the Bible, have always been up against Islam and Christianity. Those have been the two that have been bumping heads, which is exactly what the angel that shows up in Genesis said would happen. Remember, the seed of the promise comes through Isaac. And then when Abraham prays to the Father and says, but what about Ishmael? Oh, that Ishmael might dwell in my sight. And the Father says, I have heard your prayer, Abraham. As for Ishmael, I will make him a strong nation as well. He will beget 12 mighty princes. This is all in the genealogies, right? That's why the genealogies are here. But the seed of the promise shall come through Isaac. Romans chapter 9, again, Paul explains this perfectly. So, what is the Father going to do? He says he's going to remove all of this nonsense from their lips, the abominations from between his teeth. But he that remaineth, even he shall be for our Elohim. So, anybody who doesn't take part in going against Israel, it says, he that remaineth, even he shall be for our Elohim, Yahweh, the Father. And he shall be as governor in Judah, and Ekron as a Jebusite. And I will encamp about mine house because of the army, because of him that passeth by, and because of him that returneth. And no oppressor shall pass through them any more, for I have now seen it with mine eyes. Okay, so this is speaking about the coming of the Messiah. So when we left off earlier, we were talking about what's going to happen during the end times. Well, the daughter of Zion in the scriptures is very clearly explained. This daughter, this woman that's in travail all throughout the prophets, she gives birth to the remnant. Those of us that are waking up to the truth, turning back into covenant with the Father, keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments, those are going to be the remnant. Out of that remnant is taken 144,000. They're bought free, just like the Levites were bought free in the Old Testament. They are bought free and they expire before their time. They get taken when the two prophets get taken. Every part of them gets taken. Their bodies aren't going to be here. They're gone, just like that. And again, it's the same way that Enoch and Elijah were taken. Verse 9, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation. What does salvation mean in Hebrew? Yeshua. lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. We see this coming to fulfillment in the New Testament, the Messiah. And I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall speak peace unto the heathen, and his dominion shall be from sea even to sea, and from river even to the ends of the earth. So the 1,000-year millennial reign starts after tribulation ends. We are currently in the birth pains, which is why we're starting to see the persecution. All throughout the prophecies, what do you see? When Israel goes off and starts doing their own thing, veering away from the Father's law, what does the Father do? He brings in other nations to correct them. It's all throughout every book. So anybody that wants to deny that, take it up with the Father. Now, it just said that the Messiah's dominion shall be from sea to sea, which is what you're hearing these other people chanting. Not only that, they're saying, let us set our eye upon Zion and take it. They think it's theirs. But we just read that those that are not against Israel shall be for Yahweh, for him, not against him. As for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant, I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit wherein is no water, speaking about Satan. Turn you to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Even to the day do I declare that I will render double unto thee, when I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up the sons of Zion against the sons of Greece. And I have made thee as a sword of a mighty man. Now, there's a lot in this. Remember, Ephraim is the son of Joseph. My family bloodline goes all the way back to the tribe of Joseph. I have Native American blood in me, which is part of Ephraim, which I didn't understand because when I first started studying this, Ephraim seemed to me like he was cut off. Ephraim comes back as mighty warriors during this time, okay? And we see that they're in the 1,000-year millennial reign. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against the sons of Greece, and made thee as a sword of a mighty man. These men are going to be wielding swords, the 144,000. No, it's not just speaking about Ephraim. And Yahweh shall ever be seen of them, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning. And Yahweh shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with the whirlwinds of the south. And Yahweh of hosts shall defend them, and shall devour the stubble with sling stones, and they shall drink and make noise, and as through wine. Okay, so we're now talking about the locust army, Revelation chapter 9, Joel chapter 2, these other nations. When the bottomless pit opens up, those spirits go into those nations, and they persecute Israel the first 3.5 years of tribulation. There's no rapture. So the people that are teaching there's a rapture, you better go back and study all of the prophets and make sure you're not cherry-picking Paul's letters and falling into the doctrine of these false shepherds, which is what we read earlier in these other books that we were covering. So now we're talking about Yahweh encamping where these people, the remnant, are going to be hidden. Revelation 12, right? Yahweh of hosts shall defend them and shall devour them and subdue them with sling stones. 144,000. And they shall drink and make noise as through wine, and they shall be filled like bowls as the corners of the altar. And Yahweh their Elohim shall save them in that day, as the flock of his people. For they shall be as stones of a crown lifted up as an ensign upon his land. For how great is the goodness, and how great is his beauty! Corn shall make the men young and cheerful, and new wine the maids. So we know the new wine is doctrine, right? You've got good doctrine, bad wine, and you've got good doctrine, good wine. As for the corn, I'm just going to read this one verse. This is in Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 35. I'm just going to read verses 1 and 2. One who keeps the law multiplies offerings. What are our offerings today? The bulls and calves of our lips, according to the prophets. Praise and worship. We don't make animal sacrifices, right? Listen very closely. One who keeps the law multiplies offerings. One who follows the commandments offers communion sacrifices. Listen very closely to verse 2. Proof of gratitude is an offering of fine flour. There's your corn. all giving a sacrifice of praise. So, when you're reading about corn, this is Ecclesiastes or the book of Sirach, chapter 35, verses 1 through 2. If you have a Bible, it's probably Ecclesiasticus, not Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus. Or you can look it up under the book of Sirach, chapter 35, 1 through 2. Now, this offering, remember, he who keeps the law multiplies offerings. One who follows the commandments offers communion sacrifices, the bulls and calves of your lips, praise and worship. That's the corn, the fine flour that we just read in verse 2. Okay? There's a whole teaching we could do on this alone. But everything always leads back to the laws and commandments. All of it. And the people that are saying, well, we don't have to keep the law, the Messiah did it for us. No. The Messiah came here and became sin so that you could walk in his footsteps. Righteousness. That's what righteousness is. That's what the Torah is. And for those of you that don't know what the Torah is, it's simply the first 5 books of the Bible. Okay? It's very simple. That's where you're going to find everything the Father loves and he hates. And we know that he doesn't change. So if he doesn't change, why do we change him in the New Testament? Because people jump into Paul's letters and they think that Paul's teaching a different gospel. How many gospels are there? 1. How many bodies are there? 1. So why do we have 2 different gospels being preached? Because people have forgotten the Torah and the law, which is what we're about to read. All right, back to Zechariah chapter 10. Zechariah 10, ask ye of Yahweh rain in the time of the latter rain, the second measure of the Spirit. This is the latter rain, right? Remember, the first measure was poured out on Pentecost, on the apostles, so that they could build the church. Remember when the Messiah was talking to Peter and he says, people say that I'm this and I'm that, but who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you are the Son of the living Elohim, the living God. And what does the Messiah say? Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonas, a small piece of the rock. That's what that means. For flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father, which is in heaven. That small rock in Revelation becomes a giant burning mountain that's going to wipe the face of the planet by fire. Remember, the Rainbow Covenant, there will be no flood. Revelation 12 is not talking about when the serpent cast out of his mouth a flood. It's not talking about a flood of water. It's talking about a flood of nations, which is what we're currently seeing. And people think they're going to reverse this and they have hope for the U.S. and all these other European countries. Look at the other European countries. They've already been taken over. These sleeper cells that are mentioned in the book of Joel chapter 1, the locust, the grasshopper, the cankerworm, the paler-worm, those are already people that are here. And once they're activated, guess what? Devastation, tribulation begins. When all the world is crying for peace because of the storms, because of the violence, because men's hearts are increasingly getting worse and worse and becoming more and more evil, then tribulation begins. The birth pains end. The daughter has given birth to the remnant. The remnant is now awake. Most of us that have been studying this and going through all of the prophecies the last couple years, these are no longer sealed books. In Daniel chapter 12, 1 through 4, verse 4 says, now, Daniel, go and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. There's a reason why we can go through these books and completely understand them now. The Father cut us off from that knowledge for a reason. Is knowledge increasing? Yes. Is it increasing only for the believer? No. How many years were the Nephilim bound? 70 generations. Do the math. From the time of Noah till the time of now, they are free. That's why knowledge is increasing. Technology is changing. Robots are being pushed out. Everything you can think of, nothing new under the sun. It's happened before. And the Messiah says it in Matthew 24. It would be as in the days of Noah. What was in the days of Noah? The Nephilim were mixing their seed, not only with mankind, but with animals. This is where we get all these crossbreeds of animals, dinosaurs and all of these big creatures, so that they could consume more blood. And what were they doing in the days of Noah? Offering up children to Moloch. What are they doing today? Offering up children to Moloch and drinking the blood. Why? Where does the Spirit live according to Scripture? In the blood. All right, let's see. Now, my anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats. Hebrew word for goats is devils. For Yahweh of hosts hath visited his flock. the house of Judah, and hath made them his goodly house in the battle. Out of him came forth the corner, out of him the nail. This is speaking about the Messiah, the cornerstone, the nail, the battle bow. Out of him every oppressor together. Yeshua. And they shall be as mighty men when they tread down their enemies, which has happened. In the very first verse, the latter rain, the second measure of the Spirit, your sons and daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams. All of the things the Messiah said, these things that I do, you will do, and greater. This is mid-tribulation, this is happening. Then the war gets reversed. So for all of you that aren't paying attention, all of you that think that these people that are coming into your country aren't going to cause a major event here, you better wake up, and you better wake up fast. Been saying this for years. All the people that used to come against me and hate my guts and hate Jason's guts and Michael's guts and all the people that were teaching on this for years are now starting to see this is the truth. Why? Because we're not teaching our own doctrine. We're teaching exactly what the prophets say are going to happen. All right. And they shall be as mighty men, which shall tread down their enemies in the mire, in the streets, in the battle. And they shall fight, because Yahweh is with them. With who? The remnant. And the riders of the horses shall be confounded. Who are the riders of the horses? Joel chapter 2, Revelation chapter 9, the locust army, these people that are coming into your country. And I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them again to place them, for I will have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. Remember, all 12 tribes were scattered. It's the whole purpose of the Messiah coming back is to gather his people. So he's reversing this. Also the book of Hosea. I will have mercy on them. They shall be as though I had not cast them off. For I am Yahweh, their Elohim, and I will hear them. Remember, in their affliction, in our affliction, we will be beaten down, tired, worn out. In our crying out, he will hear us. And that's when the second measure of the Spirit is poured out. But it's not until we become a body, one mind, like-minded. I will bring them again to that place, for I will have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I have not cast them off. For I am Yahweh their Elohim, and I will hear them. And they of Ephraim shall be like the mighty man. Now listen, this is the reversal of Ephraim. And they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad. Their heart shall rejoice in Yahweh. I will hiss for them and gather them, and I have redeemed them. And they shall increase as they have increased, and I will sow them amongst the people. Remember, Ephraim was cut off for a while there. They shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again back into covenant with the Father. I will bring them also out of the land of Egypt and gather them out of Assyria and bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon. Look up what Lebanon means. And a place shall be not found for them, and they shall pass through the sea with affliction. The sea, the nations. They're going to pass through this. Remember, the gold and the silver has to be tried by the fire. It's talking about the remnant. And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea. And all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. And I will strengthen them in Yahweh, and they shall walk up and down in his name, saith Yahweh. All right, chapter 11. Now, this is going to get a whole lot deeper now. Okay, so we've got people that are in mid-tribulation. The second measure of the Spirit was just poured out. The Father said he promised that he would be a wall of fire around them to protect them. Those are your people that are crying out under the altar. Revelation chapter 6, the soul is crying out under the altar saying, how long, Father, must we wait until you avenge the blood of our brethren, right? Those battering rams are going to be those that are going to protect the remnant once they go back to the promised land. If you think you're going to stay in your country and ride it out, you're sadly mistaken. You will die. The only people that are going to make it out of all of these books that we've read are the remnant. The remnant have to know where to go in order to have these battering rams protecting them. Then battering rams are going to lay their lives down so that the remnant has safe passage back to where they're going to be hidden away. which we read earlier in Zephaniah chapter 3. And I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, and I might break my covenant which I had made with the people. And it was broken in that day. Remember, Jeremiah 31 through 34. He made a covenant with our forefathers, and he was a husband to them, although they broke that covenant because he gave them a bill of divorce. They didn't keep his commandments. Those are the curses in Deuteronomy 28 of not keeping the commandments. So this is what he's talking about. And so they pour out the flock and waited upon me and knew that it was the word of Yahweh. They understood the word. And I said to them, if you think good, give me a price, and if not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver. Question, how much was the Messiah sold out for? 30 shekels, right? And Yahweh said unto me, cast it into the potter, a goodly price. And I was praised of them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them into the potter, into the house of Yahweh. Then I cut asunder my other staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Now, people think that that land over there, Israel, is the promised land. It's not. That's Esau, Jacob's twin brother. They're flying the star of Remphan, their God. Has nothing to do with the promised land. We just read in Zephaniah chapter 3 that the promised land is the land of Canaan, south of the rivers of Cush, which is Ethiopia, and southward. So the people that are thinking that they're going to go to that land are already being deceived by Satan, which is why they're sending all of our money over there. People just don't seem to, it's not sinking in yet. We're sending billions of dollars to countries, and yet our own people are here suffering. Why do you think that is? Well, in Scripture, Esau sells his brother Jacob out, and they get destroyed by the enemy. He's doing the same thing now. It's why the Scripture says that in those days, these mighty merchants of the earth, all of these big companies that are run by these so-called wannabe JEWS, remember Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, those that say they are and are not, but do lie, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Let's see. Then I cut asunder mine offer and staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Judah and Israel did not become a nation in 1948. What took place was Nathan Rothschild bought a piece of Palestinian land and named it Israel in 1947 through the Balfour Declaration. That is not something that is in Scripture. That's something that you've been taught by these Baal priests in these churches, which you're called to come out of. Remember, this is what's in Revelation. Come out of her, my people, lest you partake in her plagues. The great whore that's drunken with the blood of the saints, that's the churches. You need to come out of them, and you need to go back to the Father. Verse 15, and Yahweh said unto me, take heed the instruments of a foolish shepherd. Now this is talking about Satan. For lo, I will raise up a shepherd in the land, which shall not visit those that have been cut off, neither shall seek the young one, nor heal that is broken, nor feed that standeth, but he shall eat the flesh of the fat and tear their claws into pieces. Woe unto the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword, Yeshua, the Messiah, shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye, and his arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. The eye is the lamp of the body. Remember? If your eye is single, meaning you're focused on one thing, the Messiah said you can't be in the world and in the kingdom. It's not possible. You're either hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, he will spew you out of his mouth. So what happens to the Antichrist? His right eye is going to be darkened. What is the mark of Yahweh? Keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments according to his word. What is the mark of the beast? Doing the opposite. People think this is going to be some chip in their hand or in their forehead. No, it's doing the works of Satan. It's easily explained all throughout the book. So what's going to happen to this shepherd that he's going to raise up that's going to lead people astray? The Messiah is going to take his sword upon his right arm and his right eye, and he'll clean dry up his arm, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. No understanding. He's going to be completely evil. cut off entirely, no longer allowed to accuse the brethren. Like we see in the book of Job, he'll no longer be able to accuse us to the Father at this point where we're at. Chapter 12. The burden of the word of Yahweh for Israel, saith Yahweh, which stretched forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formed the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about. Now, the second measure of the Spirit has been poured out. Now, all of the nations that have been persecuting Israel for the first 3.5 years of tribulation are now going to be trembling, because one will put 10,000 to flight. Remember that? When they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut to pieces. Anyone who goes up against Israel, not the land, the people, anyone who fights against the Father's people, he says right here, I will make Jerusalem, not the place, the people, a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with this stone, remember the great stone, the little rock that turns into a big mountain, will be cut into pieces. Though all people of the earth be gathered together against it, in that day, saith Yahweh, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. Who is this talking about? The locust army. Joel chapter 2, Revelation chapter 9, and all through the prophets. These are those that are coming in on horses. These are mighty men. Remember in Joel chapter 2, nothing will stop them. If you think you're going to go out in the streets and fight against these people, you're going to die immediately. It tells you for the first 3.5 years of tribulation that they will wound each other. They will fall upon the sword, or they will, I can't say the word, but they will try to unalive one another. Or other people will try to unalive them, and they will not be injured. They will enter into the windows like a thief. They shall climb upon the walls like mighty men of war. Why? Because they have all of these spirits that have been trapped. The whole purpose of the bottomless pit being opened, all of those spirits are now in their body. Remember when the Messiah was casting out Legion? 2,000 demons came out of that man. And they were cast into the swine. They ran off the cliff and they drowned. Had no body to inhabit. They got to go back to Sheol. Only 1/10 of them were allowed to stay out. And I'm talking about the fallen, not demons. Demons themselves are trapped here on the earth. That was their punishment. The demons that were given birth to on the earth, remember, those are the sons of the watchers that went into the daughters of men, Genesis chapter 6. They then become evil spirits when they died. They wanted their children to live 500 years. The Father said, no way. He brings the flood, wipes them out, and then they're here on the earth as a punishment against mankind and the women that allowed it. That's why there's an order. The Father, the Messiah, man, woman, child. If you try to go around the order of the Most High, which is called the Godhead, it's not a Trinity, it's the Godhead, it's the order of the Father. If you try to bypass that in any way, you're skipping right past the Father's word and saying, nope, I don't care what you say, Father, I'm going to do what I want. There's an order to this and an understanding as well. So he's going to smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and I will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall my strength in Yahweh of hosts be in their Elohim. In that day I will make the governors of Judah like an hearth of the fire among the wood. There's a whole teaching on the wood alone that I could do. And like a torch of fire in a sheath. And they shall devour all people round about. Who's going to devour who? It just told us. In that day I will make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood, like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all people round about. Who? The governors of Judah, which are the people that are waking us up, by the way. On the right hand and on the left, Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Remember, our Messiah came through Judah, through the bloodline of Judah. Judah is in charge. Judah was given dominion over the earth, the kingdoms of the earth, and Levi was given the dominion over the heavens. That's why Levites were bought free. They expired before their time. The same thing goes with the bride of the Lamb, 144,000. They're bought free. When the two prophets die, they are raptured and taken up to the throne. That's the closest thing to a rapture there is. It's not everyone getting raptured. It's the woman that's in birth or that's in labor, painting to be delivered. She gives birth to the remnant. Then the remnant wakes up. Out of that remnant is taken 144,000 priests and kings of the new earth. They're going to be like the Levites in the sense that they will be priests and they will be kings. They're taken out of the group of the remnant. So you've got 8 billion people walking the planet. You can do the math. It's not a lot of people that are going to be saved. You're talking like 50, 60, maybe 70,000 out of all the people of the earth. A remnant shall be saved. And people are falling into this delusion that, oh, everybody can make it. As long as you confess the name of the Messiah, you're getting in. That's not what Scripture says. Was it enough for Peter to just confess the name of the Messiah when he said that? Who do you say that I am, Peter? You are the Son of the living God. A couple chapters later, we see the Messiah going to Peter and saying, Peter, Satan wants to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith will not fail. And when you be converted, convert your brethren. So all of this all I have to do is confess the name of Jesus. That's it. No, people. There's a covenant that has to be kept. The covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what everybody's already falling into. The lies that the anti-Messiah, when Yeshua was walking the earth, he told you that the spirit of the Antichrist was already at work. And that there would be many that would come, claiming to be the Antichrist. Yahweh shall also save the tents of Judah first, and glorify the house of David, and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that they do not magnify themselves against Judah. Listen very closely. In that day shall Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble, this word feeble, listen very closely, one that staggers or totters, one that is weak, one that is injured or ruined or overthrown, all of these people that are part of this remnant, he that is weak and feeble among them in that day shall be as David. You understand David was fighting giants? In order to marry David's wife, the king told him to go and bring him back 100,000 foreskins of the Philistines. He comes back with 200,000. David was not a weak man. We've got this story of David walking out on the battlefield being this little shepherd boy. No, David was too big to fit into the king's armor. David went and grabbed 5 smooth stones from the brook, not because he thought he was going to miss with Goliath, but because we read later on Goliath had 4 siblings. He was ready to slay all 5 of them. So all of the weak and feeble in this day, we're talking about mid-tribulation, the second measure of the Spirit being poured out, will be as David. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're part of the remnant, it says, this word feeble, weak, injured, one that's made to stumble, being injured, to be ruined or overthrown, to make feeble, to make weak, will have the strength as David. Very clear. And the house of David shall be as Yahweh, as the angel of Yahweh before them. Right there, it just explained your Messiah. The house of David shall be as Yahweh, as the angel of Yahweh before them. We know that this is not talking about David sitting on the throne for the 1,000-year millennial reign, right? This is an heir, a seed of David. What tribe was David from? Judah. What covenant did the Father make with David? From Judah. That there would never be one lacking from the seed of David to sit on the throne. So we know this is not talking about David sitting on the 1,000-year millennial reign throne. It's talking about David's throne and the Messiah ruling and reigning for 1,000 years. Verse 9, and it shall come to pass in that day that when I seek to destroy all the nations that have come against Jerusalem, not the place, the people, I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplications, the latter rain. For everybody that's been arguing, the former rain and the latter rain moderately. If you're going to teach, you better know how to sing the song of Moses, Deuteronomy chapter 32. There are a lot of people teaching that have no understanding of what the prophets are saying whatsoever. They're making stuff up and they're listening to what these churches have been teaching. And these churches are telling you, hey, we don't keep the law anymore. It's not for us. But what do? They pass around a collection plate and ask you for your money. Question, is tithing part of keeping the law? Then why are you listening to these Baal priests? Why are you watching them build $1 million homes and fly in jets, asking you for money, yet they don't do anything with it? They're wasting your money. So when does the second measure of the Spirit get poured out? Zechariah chapter 12, verse 9. It's clearly spelled out, the latter rain. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Agency. The Father sent the Son with all authority and power. Correct? So did they pierce the Father, a spirit, an invisible spirit, one who can't die? No. The Father sent his Son, just as the scripture says. This is my Son with whom I am well pleased. Not this is me in the flesh. And all of this gymnastics that the modern day church has to do to try to convince you there's a Trinity. No. Genesis 1:26. Let us create man in our image. It's the Father talking to his sons, the Ben Elohim, the sons of God. Job 38:7. Who was created first, man or angel? Angels. Goes all the way back to Genesis 1. Genesis 1 through 2 or 3. When light was created. The first brought forth Son, Yeshua, the Messiah, the bright and morning star, Revelation 22:16. Is Yahweh a star? Is he a host of heaven? Or did he create the host of heaven? And they shall mourn for him as one that mourneth for his only son. And it shall be bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day there shall be great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadradam in the valley of Megiddo. And they shall mourn every family apart, and the family of the house of David apart, and the wives apart, and the family of the house of Nathan apart, and their wives apart, and the family of the house of Levi apart, and their wives apart, and the family of Shemai apart, and their wives apart, and all the families that remain, every family apart, and their wives apart. If you were fortunate enough to have a spouse or have a family that's all serving the Father, you better count your blessings. Because the Father said he would take one of a family, two of a city. And who inherits the earth? The righteous. So why would anybody be raptured out of here? The righteous shall inherit the earth. The wicked are going to be removed from off of the earth. They're going straight down to Sheol for 1,000 years. Then they're brought up after the 1,000-year millennial reign, Revelation chapter 20. And then they're judged the second death. So while everybody's here listening, you better pay close attention to what I'm saying. If you are not part of the remnant and you're not following in the Father's ways and he's calling and you're not answering the phone, you think you're just going to keep living life half in the world and half out? When tribulation begins, the door of the ark shuts. This is why the Messiah said it would be as in the days of Noah. What happened when the doors of the ark shut? All the people came and said, let us in. Noah said, no. You had 120 years to get it together, and you mocked and you scoffed, and you didn't want to hear a word I said. Now, the floods are here to take you away. The same floods that are going to take all of those that deny the Father away through the nations that are coming in to remove them. All right, next chapter. Chapter 13. In that day there shall be a fountain opened to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for sin and for uncleanness. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols in the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And I also will cause the prophets and the unclean spirits to pass out of the land. The false prophets, the false shepherds. Remember, they're going to be the ones handing each other the Bible saying, read this, I pray you. And the guy's going to push the book back and say, I can't. I don't understand it. Why? Because all of the knowledge that was in the land, the lights of the earth, the city on a hill, have been removed. Why? Because the people rejected the truth. They denied the truth, and they believed a lie. Therefore, they're placed under a strong delusion that they might believe a lie. And they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and unclean spirits to pass out of the land. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, Thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of Yahweh. They're going to recognize the false prophets. All of you that are out there teaching lies, it's going to be your own family that's going to say, Nope, you've been lying. We're going to turn you in. And then off goes your head. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth. Why? Because they've been led astray. And they're going to be angry about it. And it shall come to pass in that day when the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his own vision, when they have prophesied, neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. Meaning they're not going to be able to get away with, oh, I'm mourning and I'm praying for you and all this other nonsense. No, it's the end for them. But he shall say, I am no prophet. I am a husbandman, for I am taught. For man has taught me to keep cattle from my youth. So he doesn't want to be a prophet no more. He wants to go back to being a worker. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, Those which I was wounded in the house of my friends. So if you do live after you're beaten to a pulp for lying to everybody after they're stuck here, believe me, you're not going to be well liked by the people if you're still alive. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd. Who's the sword? What shepherd were we just reading about? The false shepherd, correct? Whose eye is going to be darkened in his right arm. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahweh of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall come to pass in the land, saith Yahweh, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, and a 3rd part shall be left therein. You want to understand the book of Revelation? You better understand the prophets first. And I will bring a 3rd part through the fire. Remnant, listen closely. I will bring a 3rd part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, It is my people, and they shall say, Yahweh is my Elohim. This is everything that's going to happen during tribulation, guys. Zechariah chapter 14. Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. And the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. You do not want to be here for this, people. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then Yahweh shall go forth, the Messiah, and shall fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east of the Mount of Olives, and shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west. Remember, the Messiah comes like lightning from the east to the west. And there shall be a great valley, and a half of the mountain shall remove towards the north and towards the south. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azel. Yea, you shall flee as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah the king of Judah. And Yahweh, my Elohim, shall come, and all the saints with thee. 144,000. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that the living waters shall go out of Jerusalem, half of them towards the former sea, and half of them towards the hinder sea. And in summer and winter shall it be. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth in that day. shall there be one Elohim, and his name is one. And the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. South of Jerusalem. And it shall be lifted up, and the inhabitant in her place, from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, from the tower of Haneel of the king's wine presses. Remember, this is where the Messiah tramples down all of those that disobey. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people who have fought against Jerusalem. Listen very closely. All of you nations out there that are trying to fight against Yahweh's people, listen very closely. This is the plague that Yahweh will smite all the people who have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. Their eyes shall consume in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them. 144. And they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. Confusion, the plummet line. And Judah also shall fight against Jerusalem. And the wealth of the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver, and apparel in great abundance. And so shall the plague of the horses and the mule, and of the camel, and of the ass, and all of the beasts, and all of these that are in tents, as this plague. Does that sound pleasant to you? Your eyes consuming out of your sockets? Your orbital bone? Your eyes are melting inside of your orbital bone? Your tongue consuming away? Remember, there's going to be plagues, pestilences, famines, earthquakes. The seas are going to be in distress, which is the nations. The earth is going to be perplexed. Men's hearts will fail them for the fear of the things that are coming upon them. No rapture. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh. Now, why is it saying this, guys? Listen very closely. There are certain nations that are cut off that will not ever enter the congregation of Yahweh. We know who they are. For the rest of you, it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh. Why are they left? Because there is going to be a battle, right? And it's not all of them. Those that cleave to Israel will be saved. Those who choose to go against Israel, some of them are going to be left to test Israel during the 1,000-year millennial reign. So you can live up to 1,000 years during the 1,000-year millennial reign because you're going back to a generation of Adam. Adam lived 930 years, almost one full day with the Father. 1,000 years to us is one day with the Father, according to Peter and the book of Psalms. There's 2 witnesses. So it's only been 6 days for the Father since he created the earth up until now. Why? Because Yahweh's not inside of space and time like we are. We are inside of a firmament with 7 layers. Nothing is going out or coming in. Now, for all the people that think we're not going to be keeping the law, you better listen very closely. And it shall come to pass that everyone is left of all nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up from all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Elohim of hosts, upon them shall be no rain, a curse. And if the families of Egypt go not up, and come not that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Question, is the Feast of Tabernacles part of the law that's in the law of Moses? Why would we be keeping this on the new earth when Messiah is ruling and reigning if there is no law? Maybe those of you that are denying the prophets need to go back and study the prophets. Because Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1 makes it very clear that in the days of old, Yahweh spoke to us through the prophets, Amos 3:7, by our fathers, and in these last days he has spoken through his Son. Not Paul, not someone else. And because you're taking Paul's letters and twisting them to your own destruction, as Peter warned that you would, you're not going to understand what you're reading. But if you wake up and stop being prideful and listen to what the prophets said, because these are the men that Yahweh chose to tell us what was going to happen during the end times. And again, without these men in the Father's writings, which he spoke through them, you cannot understand the book of Revelation. You can try. I've heard many people try to explain it, but it makes no sense when they're talking, especially when you know what this book is saying. Verse 20, in that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Yahweh, and the pots in Yahweh's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts, and they shall sacrifice. They shall all sacrifice that shall come and take of them, and seethe therein, and that day there shall be no more Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts. Who's going to get cut off? The Canaanite. Let me ask you guys a question. When in Genesis chapter 3, when Eve's being deceived, how did Eve get deceived? Who deceived Eve? Anybody? Who deceived Eve in the garden? How was Eve deceived? Better yet, how was Eve deceived in the garden? Genesis chapter 3, how was Eve deceived? Was it by a snake? Revelation 12 and Revelation 19 tell us that that old serpent is also called Satan and the devil. How did Satan appear to Eve? What did he look like to Eve? She was beguiled. Fallen angel, he is an angel. He can transform himself into an angel of light. What do you think he looked like? Adam. Think about this for a second. For all of you serpent seed deniers, it's written in the prophets. Satan disguised himself as Adam. That's why Eve did what she did. It was Satan that went into Eve. That's why there was 2 children born. One belonging to Satan, one belonging to Eve. You go to Genesis chapter 5, in the generations or the genealogies of Adam, guess what? No mention of Cain, because Cain is not Adam's son. The Canaanite is going to be destroyed because they're Satan's children. Where do you think that the fallen angels got the idea, the watchers got the idea in Genesis chapter 6 to do what they did, people? Think and use your brains for those of you that are denying this. There's certain things we've been holding back for a very long time because I'm waiting for you people to test us. As soon as you do, you're going to get chopped down by the word. So what does verse 21 say? All of the pots in Jerusalem, all of his people, shall be as holiness. But in that day shall there no more be the Canaanite in the house of Yahweh, the Elohim of hosts. And that is the last chapter. Now we're going to go into Malachi. Malachi is important because it's very clear about what's expected of us. It's the last prophet that spoke in your 66 book canon. I have to do this slowly. Throat is sore. The burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel. Who is this written to? To Israel, by Malachi. I have loved you, saith Yahweh. Yet you say, wherein have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's twin brother? Yes, they were twins. Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Yahweh? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau. But I thought Yahweh loved everybody. I thought all nations were going to make it into the kingdom. We just read in the last chapter, chapter 14 of the book that we were just in. There shall be no more the Canaanite. Now what is he saying? Why did he hate Esau? Well, Esau married 2 Hivite women, which were descendants of the Canaanites, which were a grievance of mine to Isaac and Rebekah. Mixing seed was not allowed, people. There's a reason why there's segregation. There's a reason why there's an apartheid in Africa. There's a reason for everything. People just don't want to pay attention, nor do they want to adhere to what this word says. I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, where we are impoverished, but we will return to build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. This is the book of Obadiah, the destruction of Esau. They shall call them the border of wickedness, the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. These are the ones that are running the earth right now. Esau's twin brother, which is how these other nations are going to get you to hate those that look like us. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, Yahweh will be magnified from the border of Israel. A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear, saith Yahweh of hosts, unto you, O priests, teachers, Baal priests, that despise my name. And you say, wherein have we despised thy name? You offer polluted bread upon my altar, corn. And you say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say, the table of Yahweh is contemptible. And if you offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and the sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith Yahweh of hosts? And now I pray you, beseech Yahweh, that you will be gracious unto us. This hath been by your means. Will he regard your persons, saith Yahweh of hosts? Who is there even among you that would shut the doors for nothing? Neither do you kindle a fire on my altar for nothing. I have no pleasure in you, saith Yahweh of hosts, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. For from the rising of the sun, even to the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles. In every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and pure offering for my name shall be great among the heathen, saith Yahweh of hosts. Who is he writing to? Israel. Hang on, they're trying to puzzle me again. He's speaking to Israel, correct? A son honoreth his father, and I already read that, sorry. Verse 12, but you have profaned it, if you say, the table of Yahweh is polluted, and the fruit thereof, even his meat, is contemptible. Is this talking about fruit and meat? No, people. They're saying, Yahweh is saying, they're saying, how have we profaned it? And Yahweh is saying, you're saying that my table, the table of Yahweh, is polluted. The fruit is bad. Even the meat. What is the meat of Scripture? You got the milk, those who are just new to Scripture. And then you've got the meat of Scripture. Right? Milk, meat. In between that, you have bread. Milk, bread, meat. You said also, behold, what a weariness is this, that we have to keep the law, that we can't keep birthdays and Christmas and Halloween and all these pagan traditions that Yahweh says he hates. Yet everybody's out there celebrating it. Guys, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to show you, if you don't wake up from this nonsense, you are going to be stuck here when tribulation begins, and it's going to begin very soon. Not by my word, by what the prophets have taught us. If you don't understand prophecy, Scripture makes it clear the people that are not following the Father are not even going to know it's tribulation until it's really, really heavy. Then they're going to start to question and say, what's going on here? And once they realize they're stuck here, they're going to be cursing his name. Then they're going to be hiding in the clefts of the rocks, their bunkers, and all this other crap that they built, saying, fall on us and hide us from the wrath of the Lamb. Ye also said, Behold, what a weariness is it! And you have snuffed at it, saith Yahweh of hosts. You brought that which was torn, and the lame and the sick. Thus you brought as an offering. Should I accept this of your hand, saith Yahweh? But cursed be the deceiver, which hath his flock a male, and vow a sacrifice unto Yahweh, a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith Yahweh of hosts, and my name is dreadful amongst the heathen. Chapter 2. Now, listen very closely. Now, O you priest, this commandment is for you. Listen, Baal priest, very closely. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart, nor give glory unto my name, saith Yahweh of hosts, I, even I, will send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings, Deuteronomy 28. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, your offspring, and spread dung. S-H-I-T is the proper word for this in Hebrew. I will spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, Christmas, birthdays, Easter, Christmas. All of the things we're warned in this book not to keep, which is what the heathen do. This is your punishment coming if you continue doing it. And one shall take away with you, and you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi. What did Levi do? Levi kept the commandments. Levi was holy before Yahweh, which is why they were bought free. The 144,000 are holy before Yahweh, which is why they're bought free. They're keeping and teaching the law. Remember what the Messiah said, those that relax one of the least of these commandments and teach men so shall be called least in the kingdom. But the man that does them and teaches them shall be called great in the kingdom. Those that aren't mentioned at all are those that don't teach them at all. Those that are saying they're done away with. And guess what they're going to hear? Oh, Messiah, didn't we do all of these wonderful works in your name? Didn't we cast out demons? Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. I never knew you. That's going to be a tough one to hear for a lot of believers. Where was I? Now, listen very closely. My covenant was with Levi, saith Yahweh of hosts. My covenant was with him for life and peace, and I gave it to him for the fear wherewith he feared me and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, the Torah. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did not turn many away from iniquity, or did turn many away from iniquity, For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. Does Yahweh change? For he is the messenger. Wait, what did I skip? Equity. He should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahweh of hosts. Who is the messenger? The person who's preaching the truth, the Torah. Those are messengers of the Most High. I hope that makes sense to all of you that are chopping down the brothers that I see on here that are teaching truth. Hope you know you're heaping hot coals on your own head every time you do it. But you are departed out of the way. Why did the Messiah say, I'm the way, the truth, and the life? What is the way? The Torah. What is the truth? The life. Torah. Everywhere it's mentioned, I don't care if it's in the New Testament or the Old Testament, it's always referring to the royal law, the law of life and liberty. But you departed out of the way. You caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith Yahweh of hosts. Therefore, I also made you contemptible and base before all people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. How are you partial in the law? Oh, well, we only have to keep the 10 commandments. We don't have to keep all of the law. Did the Messiah keep 613 commandments? No. Are there 613 commandments in this book? No. Could the Messiah keep the laws for a Levitical priest? No, that's a huge chunk of them. Could he keep the laws for a menstruating woman? No. Could he keep the laws for farmers? another huge chunk of the laws. No. He only kept the laws that were applicable to him as a man. So when I hear somebody say, well, we can't keep the law, you've got 10 commandments, and if you're lucky, 35 laws that are attached to those 10. All of the law and the prophets hang on these 10. When the Messiah gave 2 of the greatest, were they new? Love Yahweh your Elohim with all of your heart, soul, and mind. And the second, which is like it, is to love your neighbor. Exodus chapter 20, read it. The first 4, all about loving Yahweh. The last 6, all about loving your neighbor. The man that came up to the Messiah saying, which is the greatest out of all the commandments? It said he was tempting him. So why did the Messiah speak in parables? To throw off all those who are not willing to study to show themselves approved, working out your own salvation with fear and trembling, and not relying on these Baal priests in the church to teach you. Have we not all one Father? Or do we have 3? Is it Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God that we're talking in Genesis 1:26 saying, let us create man in our image? And then you've got the doubters saying, well, the Messiah didn't pre-exist. Then who was standing in the burning bush? Who went up in the flame of fire with Manoah? Who was with the people of the children of Israel in the wilderness for 40 years? Who wrote the law with Moses? The hand of Yahweh, the right hand of Yahweh, the finger, the Messiah. Therefore, I have also made you contemptible and base before all people, according as you have not kept my ways, but you have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father, and hath not one Elohim created us? Why do we deal treacherously, every man against his brother, by profaning the covenant of our fathers? Jeremiah 31 through 34. Behold, the days cometh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers, when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, which I was a husband to them, which covenant they broke. Jeremiah chapter 3, that's the divorce decree that was given to all of Israel. Israel didn't disappear, people. We're still here. We're scattered into all of the earth. That's why the Messiah is coming back to gather us. Verse 11, Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel. Jeremiah chapter 3. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of Yahweh, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. This is part of the Torah. Do not marry your sons unto their daughters, and do not take their daughters unto your sons, because they will turn you away to serve other gods. You can accept it, you can hate me, you can call me whatever you want, or you can take it up with the Father and call him all these names. It doesn't bother me at all. Yahweh will cut off the man that doeth this. Doeth what? Profaning his holiness and marrying a strange god. And the master of the scholar out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offer an offering unto Yahweh of hosts. And this have you done again, covering the altar of Yahweh with tears, with weeping, and with crying, out insomuch that you regard not an offering any more, or receiveth it with good at the will of your hand. Yet you say, wherefore? Because Yahweh hath been a witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, and against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Who is he talking about? Mixing seed with other nations. This is why he gave us the sacrificial law. It was a punishment. We didn't want to keep his commandments. When he tells us in the New Testament, my commandments are not a burden to you. They're not far from you. The man that says he loves me keeps my commandments. The man that doesn't is a liar, and there's no truth in him. Isaiah 8:20, to the law and the testimony. If they speak not according to these words, it is because there is no light in them. The law of Yahweh and the testimony of his Son. You have Yahweh, right? The judge, the faithful witness, the Messiah, and everybody else who is going to stand witness against all of the people that we're teaching and the people that are doing this. The same way they did when Yahweh sent all of these prophets. The prophets said, you guys need to turn back into covenant with the Father. And they said, don't teach to us this stuff. These things are too hard to hear. Teach to us smooth things. Tickle our ears like the modern day church does today. And this have you done again, covering the altar of Yahweh with tears and weeping and with crying, insomuch that you regard not the offering any more, and receive it with good at the will of your hand. Yet you say, Wherefore? Because Yahweh hath been a witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion and thy wife of thy covenant? Or are you married to someone else? And did he not make one? How many covenants are there? One. How many laws are attached to that covenant? Depends on who you are. The law didn't change. The priesthood changed. Back to the order of Melchizedek, which is what it's always been from day one. From Noah's brother, order of Melchizedek. That's when Melchizedek was born. Noah's brother his wife gave birth to Melchizedek. Melchizedek was taken away and brought back in the days of Abraham to reestablish the order of Melchizedek. Moses was under the order of Melchizedek until what? Until they started sinning. Then they fell under the curses of the law, the sacrificial law. When the Messiah came and died, he became sin. He did away with the sacrificial law. This is the entire book of Hebrews. Simple to understand. Let's see. Is she your companion or the wife of your covenant? And did not he make one covenant? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. The father. It's not talking about your earthly wife. For Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, saith that he that hath putting away, for one covereth violence with his garment, saith Yahweh of hosts. Therefore take heed of your spirit, that you deal not treacherously. This is Jeremiah 3, guys. Remember, the Father is saying in Jeremiah 3, return back to me. I'm sending you prophet after prophet after prophet. And what did the people say? We will not turn back. We will not hear your laws. We will not hear your rules and your statutes and commandments. We don't care about those stuff. And then what happened? He punished them. Then they start whining and crying and complaining about it. Then the Father brings them out of it. Then they worship the Father for a little bit of time. They're in the promised land. They start serving other gods, start marrying into other nations. They get kicked out of the promised land over and over again. It's a repeating cycle. There's nothing new under the sun. For Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, saith, and I've already read that, sorry. You have wearied Yahweh with your words, yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When you say, every one that doeth evil is good in the sight of Yahweh, and he that delighteth in them, or where is the Elohim of judgment? So what are we seeing today? Good is becoming evil, and evil is becoming good. It's okay if you're a child in school to go take a piss in a litter box. It's okay if you want to decide if you want to be a giraffe or an elephant. Everything's upside down. Men's hearts are becoming evil continually. People are thinking about eating and drinking and marrying and buying houses, not realizing the sign of the times. And then they're saying, where is God? Did he forget about us? Nope, he told us he was going to come exactly when people forgot about him. Malachi chapter 3. Behold, I will send my messenger, Yeshua, and he shall prepare the way before me. Okay, so this is speaking about John. My apologies. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Yahweh, and the master whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger, the angel of the covenant, in whom you delight. Behold, he shall come, saith Yahweh of hosts. But who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he shall appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. Remember, we have to be purified, guys. And he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that he may offer unto Yahweh an offering in righteousness. Who is this talking about today? The 144,000. Then shall he offer Judah and Jerusalem to be pleasant unto Yahweh, as in the days of old, as in the former years. I will come near unto you in judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the scorners, and against the idolaters, and against the false swearers, and against those who oppress the hireling in his wages, and against the widow and the fatherless that turn aside the stranger from his right. And fear not me, saith Yahweh of hosts, for I am Yahweh, and I change not. Therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed. The remnant. This is the only reason there's going to be a remnant. There's always been a remnant, guys. Always. Every single prophecy, whenever the nations come in to take away the children of Israel, there's always a remnant left so that they can carry on in truth. It's always a remnant. Even from the days of your fathers you are gone away from my ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Yahweh of hosts. But you say, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob Yahweh? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and in offerings. You are cursed with a curse. Modern day church, we don't have to keep the law, but we want your tithes and offerings. Interesting how these prophets that are in the Old Testament are telling us what's happening in the end days, and they're spot on accurate. For you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouses, that they may be meat in my house. And prove me now, herewith, saith Yahweh of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. If what? If you would just go back and read Deuteronomy 28 and understand that keeping his commandments is a blessing. He promised you that would be. He promised you if you kept his laws, statutes, ordinances, or commandments, that he would have blessings chasing you down. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 15, all the blessings. Deuteronomy 28, 16 through 67, all of the curses of not keeping the law. So for those of you that say, stop trying to place us back under the law, you're placing yourself under the law by being disobedient and stiff-necked and hard-hearted because you're doing this when you should be listening. Bring ye all the tithes in the storehouses, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, says Yahweh of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough for you to receive it. And I will rebuke and devour for your sakes, and you shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Yahweh. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be delightsome, a delightsome land, saith Yahweh of hosts. These are all the blessings that are in Deuteronomy 28, and the curses. Your words have been stout against me, saith Yahweh. Yet you say, when have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve Yahweh. Exactly what you people are doing today. It is vain to keep the commandments. It is vain to do what the Father says. It's all about what Paul says now, when Paul is saying the same exact thing that they're all saying. Peter warned you, 2 Peter 3:15 through 19, those that are unsteady and unlearned in the law will take Paul's letters and twist them to their own destruction as they do the rest of the scripture. Why would we not listen to Peter? Why would we not trust our Messiah? Instead, we got to make up doctrines like the rapture, once saved, always saved by grace through faith alone. No, people. You're skipping over the entire covenant, which means you're not in the covenant. And if you think the Father's going to protect you, he's not a respecter of persons. He's only going to protect those who he said he would protect, which are those that are keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 13. Your words have been stout against me, saith Yahweh, yet you say, we have spoken so much against thee, and you have said in vain, it is vain to serve Yahweh. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinances, and that we have walked mournfully before Yahweh of hosts? And now we call proudly, happy, yea, they that work wickedness are set up, and they that tempt Yahweh are even delivered. This is what they're teaching. You can tempt the Father and you're going to be fine. You're going to be raptured out of here. Nope, that's not what the Father is saying. Then they that fear Yahweh spake often one to another. Yahweh hearkened and heard it. And the book of remembrance was written before him. Remember, all the books will be opened. Every deed that you've ever done, Yahweh tests and tries the hearts and the reins of every man. The heart and the kidneys of every man. Are all foods clean? Why does he need to test the kidneys? Because the kidney is the only organ in the body where they can open it up and examine it and see everything that you've ever eaten. And they shall be mine, saith Yahweh. Who? Those that are meek, those that hearkened and heard it. And the book of remembrance was written before him. Them that feared Yahweh and thought upon his name. They shall be mine, saith Yahweh of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth Yahweh and him that serveth not. Now, here's the most important chapter out of all of this. Malachi chapter 4. Listen very closely. This is a summary. Remember, this is only 4 chapters. It's a very quick summary. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up. Remember what we just read about their eyes consuming out of their socket, in their mouth, in their flesh. Saith Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. What did John say to the people that were coming? You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee the wrath to come? The axe is already laid at the root of the tree, people. You can't change it. Verse 2, but unto you that fear the name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and he shall go forth and grow up as the calves of the stall. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Yahweh of hosts. Remember the Messiah said, behold, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions. We don't believe that though, do we? Verse 4, remember you, people, the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all of Israel, with the statutes and judgments. I wonder why the last book of the Old Testament, which is what some man decided to do, is take a piece of paper that says Old and New and place it in between Malachi and Matthew. Anybody that adds or takes away from the words of this book, guess what's going to be added to them? The curses of this book. Remember you the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all of Israel, with statutes and judgments. Question. How long are these laws and statutes commanded to Israel and those that cleave to Israel? Are they not everlasting? Are they not an everlasting perpetual covenant? So why are we changing it? Why are we saying, no, not the law, not the law, anything but the law, everything's spiritual today. All we have to do is believe today. Better wake up, people. Verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming and great and dreadful day of Yahweh, and he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. That's it. Malachi chapter 4. So we know Elijah is one of the 2 prophets. Where is Enoch found? Ezekiel chapter 9. It's very clear. The man with the writer's inkhorn. The only man that was ever spoken about with the writer's inkhorn. And we know that we weren't supposed to learn those things. Men were not supposed to be writing with ink and paper. We were supposed to have learned the judgments of the Most High, and we should have been taking the Garden of Eden and expanding it. But instead, we got kicked out of the garden, and the garden got taken up to one of the firmaments, which I'm not going to go into right now. And then the heart of the earth is where the Messiah went when he died. Now, I just saw one of these straight as the gate people make another video about Deborah. And I'm getting quite tired of hearing these knuckleheads talk, because when they talk, they don't talk with any understanding. They're talking about all of this stuff like the thief on the cross, he didn't have to be baptized. Did he not? Or is that an assumption that you're making? Because anybody that was in the days of John, when the Messiah came, would have been baptized had they believed in the coming of the Messiah. So by default, these people are automatically making assumptions when the Messiah said, any man, every man that enters the kingdom of heaven must be baptized by water and by spirit. What has the church done? They say, oh, that's the womb of the mother. And the spirit means that's when you receive the Holy Spirit as soon as you confess the name of Jesus. Wrong. That is not right. That is a lie. If the Messiah was baptized in the River Jordan, he was blameless. What makes you think you get to bypass that? And if you've been baptized and you say you haven't sinned since you've been baptized, I'm going to call you out as a liar. There are people on here teaching, oh, once you become a Christian, you don't sin no more. Christians cannot sin. Christians don't even know the beginning of the truth. They're not even on milk yet. And they're on here teaching people how to go straight to hell. Many paths are there to hell. Broad is the path of destruction. But the way to truth, the way, the truth, and the life is very narrow, and few be there that find it. A remnant is going to be saved. Not the Christian church, not the Baptist church. Again, for those of you that are calling the Messiah Jesus Christ, explain to me this one thing. The name Joshua has been translated all throughout the scriptures properly. They translated it into Joshua, Yehoshua, Joshua, Yeshua. So explain to me how they take the name Joshua when it comes to Yeshua or the Messiah and they translated it into Jesus. Ask anybody who speaks Spanish what the name Jesus means. The Messiah warned you, I have come in my Father's name and you receive me not. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. How can you who receive honor from one another not receive the honor that comes only from the Father? Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There's one that accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed the writings of Moses, you would have believed my words. What was the Messiah saying? If the writings of Moses, which were commanded by Yahweh for Moses to write, which was the law, if the Messiah is saying, don't think I will accuse you to the Father, there's one that's going to accuse you, Moses. Show me in this book where Moses is going to be judging anybody. He's not. He's saying the law that Moses was commanded to write were his words. They didn't believe his words. He was the walking embodiment of the Torah, the law. Yes, Jesus is a Baal priest name. Guys, if you don't understand this by now, in Revelation, it says, let those who have understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. John was not writing in English numbers on the Isle of Patmos. If you go back to the original Greek, it says Kai Zi Stigma, Jesus Christos, Jesus Christ. He's warned us. There's two witnesses I've given you right there. 2, another will come in his own name, you will receive him. Let those who have understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. The Antichrist, or Satan, whatever you want to call him, he's been laying this foundation for 2,000 years because we've been asleep, people. It's the prophecy of the valley of the dry bones. The 2 sticks becoming one house. That hasn't happened yet. Judah and Israel did not become one house yet. That land, Israel, over there, that everybody keeps putting their eyes on, saying, oh, we can't touch those people. Those are the holy people. You're serving Satan by doing that, people. Wake up. They're flying the Star of Remphan, which is spoken about in the book of Acts and in the Old Testament. It's their God. It's not the Father. There is no Star of Jacob. There is no Star of Bethlehem. It's the star of the Messiah, Revelation 22:16. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. So who is the Messiah? Who's the star that falls and opens the bottomless pit? Satan. Job 38:7. When the sons of God, the morning stars, sang for joy at the completion of the earth. Who are the stars? The hosts of heaven. They're the angels. When they fall, what do you think they're falling from? Outer space? Think those are meteor showers? Are you going to call Paul a liar? He was called up into the third firmament. Yet we can't get believers to believe what's written in Genesis chapter 1, that Yahweh took the sun and the moon and placed them inside of the firmament, not millions of miles away. Inside the firmament, the first firmament. They're local. Paul was caught up to the third firmament and resisted by Satan. His own letters. So why do we believe all this other stuff that we're being taught? Everything that we've been taught is a lie. Hollywood, the music industry, sports, the food that you eat, the chemicals you put on your body, going to church on Sunday and changing the Sabbath day from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And you want to know why people don't understand the Sabbath day? Is because they don't understand what the Levitical priests were doing during the day. When would you take your offerings to atone for sin? In the middle of the night? Prepping for Sabbath. Do you do that in the middle of the night? That's why it starts on Friday. The beginning of the day, you have all day to prep, going into the Sabbath. Then you have all day Saturday, ending Saturday evening, when the sun goes down. But no, people want to deny all 50 to 100 scriptures that we've given them, back to back to back to back. If you want to know why there's a stumbling block before you, it's because of your own mind, your own evil heart. The heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? Heart of stone? You can't reveal what's written on that until you get rid of the heart of stone and you open up your ears to the truth. And if you decide to start making and going along with these other groups like straightasthegate.net, you're going to have a problem. You're going to run into people that are going to lead you astray. These are people that are going into churches, cussing out pastors and telling pastors they're going to go to hell. That's not how the Messiah taught. The Messiah warned people. And then guess what he said? He had a young man that came to him and wanted to follow him. And he said, let me go back and bury my father. And what did the Messiah say? Let the dead bury their dead. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. There are many people in your family right now, when things start to get more turmoil here in the U.S. and all over the earth, the people in your own home are going to turn you in. Satan is going to rise to power, guys. He's not just going to pop up as soon as tribulation starts. He's going to be made known, and he's already here. And he's going to rise to power, and when he's at that 3.5-year mark, he's going to be dragging these Christians out of their churches, out of the synagogues, and taking their heads off. It's already written in this book. You can deny it all you want. The color of the 4 horsemen that we went over earlier: red, black, green, and white. Now ask yourself a question. What have you seen those 4 colors on here in the U.S.? And who do they serve? Think about the woman who's running for president. Say her name slowly. Come Allah. Come Allah. That's what they want. Shahir Allah. That's why every single president has signed into office the Noahide law, the Palestinian flag. Who do they serve? What law do they want to bring in here? From the river to the sea, all that comes out of the scripture, people. What did we just read about Hamath? What did we just read about the people in Palestine? Who was Goliath, a Philistine giant from Palestine? I don't know how to make this any clearer, guys. It is what it is. I'm going to end the live before someone reports it because I don't want somebody saying, oh, he's being this and that. I'm going to post this on my YouTube page. Link is in the bio. I love you guys. I'm going to hop off. Shalom.